Regional playoffs are underway, and teams that are still alive are fighting for state-level appearances. We'll preview action and recap highlights, all coming up on this week's installment of Varsity 360, and it starts right now. Hi there, folks. I'm Mark Coleman from the Virginia Varsity Sports Network, the mighty V2SN, and this is Varsity 360. Each week we have a chance to get together and chat about the top stories in Fredericksburg area high school sports. I like to bring along some of my friends from the Freelance Star Sports Department. They have a website called flsvarsity.com that you can log on to, and a Twitter handle at flsvarsity. Keep up with all the latest in the high school sports scene, news, notes, scores, highlights, all that kind of stuff. I have two of my very good friends from that team here with me this week. Let me introduce them to you. We have sports reporter Nathan Warters. Nathan, welcome. Good to see you again.
Thanks. Good to see you. I'm craving some chicken and shrimp right now.
Oh, okay.
Let's do it. Let's do a podcast or webcast or whatever y'all are calling this.
Sure. How about we do? I'll take one of those. We also have assistant sports editor Justin Rice. Mr. Rice, anything you want to share?
I'm equally craving some chicken. I don't know,
Cajun shrimp, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, in case you didn't notice, we have returned to the wonderful confines of the V2SN studio. We were on the road last week. Actually, took the show on the road. Taft joined me. We were on location at Riverbend High School. It was a blast. I know that our producer and engineer, Mike, certainly enjoyed dealing with the light and the wind and the thunder. If you haven't seen the show, I encourage you to go back and take a look at it. There's some good thunder crashes there in the end. We had to really hustle to get things wrapped up and packed up before the storm came along. And, now that I think about it, I haven't seen Taft since we wrapped up that show. I have seen some tweets and some texts from him, but do we need to send an APB out for him? Has he been getting his stories in?
I've not seen Taft either.
We may have to do one of those segments, Where Are They Now, Taft Coghill. So, but I'm glad that you guys joined me.
If we find Taft, I hope he brings us some chicken.
Yeah. Maybe some shrimp.
Maybe.
Well, you guys may be a little bit punch drunk because I know it's been a busy time around the high school sports desk. We're recording this one on Tuesday. Monday night was a pretty active high school sports night around the area. Yes?
Yeah. One of the changes with the new format, frequently the region tournaments all wouldn't coincide with each other. There'd be some on Monday and some on Tuesday. And this year, every region quarterfinal in the state was a Monday game. So yeah, it was pretty hot and heavy, around our office. If you're following not just our Twitter feed, but Twitter feeds from media around the state, it was going, and lots of scores, lots of action for sure last night.
It was exciting. We did have a couple of winners, so let's start with boys soccer, and we've got a really interesting game, a stellar matchup coming up in the boys soccer 4A, Chancellor and Jefferson Forest. It'll be played actually on Wednesday, so it'll be played before this airs. Nathan, tell me about this matchup.
A matchup of a couple of the biggest, best programs in the state, a couple of programs that have won state championships in recent years. I'm going to have the pleasure of covering that, so I think it's a really cool matchup. JF has got 17 wins. I think they're 17-4-2. Chancellor's 17-0-1. Didn't play their best on Monday, but they still advanced. Got 3 goals from Cameron Williams. A great effort from their defense. Coach Webb has told me several times, their defense is really what makes them go, and they don't give up a lot of cheapies. So it's going to be a good matchup. I think both teams are probably championship caliber teams. So this is going to be a tough loss for whoever doesn't come out with a win here, because this one is for a state berth.
A state berth. One of those two teams is not going to be making an appearance in the state.
Unfortunately, because you can tell both of them are great teams, and that's one of the quirks, maybe one of the real nice things. You get these kind of matchups with so much on the line,
Sure.
But it's nice for us, but it's not nice for the teams because one of them's got to go home.
Right. Pretty impressive performance by Cameron Williams, the hat trick. As I understand it, he had 2 goals within 10 seconds early in the second half there as well. So put them out to a pretty good lead. but they had to hold on at the end. It was a tight game there against Millbrook.
Yeah, and that's it's one of the things about soccer is one goal lead. You can be a good defensive team, but fluky stuff happens. You got to make sure you're on every angle and you're covering every guy, because I've seen it happen this week to several teams. You can give up a goal late and there's the ball game. So, credit Chancellor for being able to hold on, let those goals from Cameron Williams hold up, and he's a great player. He scored a goal against Cortland in the conference championship game, a big goal for them in that contest as well. So he's been really big for them. Gabriel Soriano's been big for them. They have some really good offensive players, and like I said, their defense has been strong all year.
Well, why don't we take some of the anticipation out of the way and get right to it. So based on the hat trick by Cameron Williams in the 3-2 victory over Millbrook, he scored all the goals for Cortland. Cameron Williams is the Varsity 360 Athlete of the Week. So congratulations to Cameron, and congratulations to that Chancellor team. We had them in here several weeks ago. They talked about wanting to walk off the field their last game with a win, and there's only one way you can do that. So I won't try to jinx anything here, but they're on a roll, and it looks pretty good. But they've got a really tough match ahead of them tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was reading Tom Leese, one of our staffers, went and covered the game. That was what he led with. He led with the fact that it wasn't the crispest of games. So I think they're going to have to probably pick it up a notch
no doubt,
if they're going to compete with the JF. So
it's kind of a sign of a champion, though. To be able to win a tight game when you're not playing your best.
Yeah.
Well, new format or not, when you reach this point, you're in the final 8 in the state. You're playing quality opponents.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Well, we also have some nice games coming up on the 3A East side. Culpeper's still alive.
Yeah, Culpeper, the 2 seed coming out of Conference 27. They're going to get York, also a 2 seed. Both those 2 teams pulled off first round. I guess you call them upsets. They're the lower seeded team, and they come out and win. So there you go. And now they're going to play for a state tournament berth. Opposite side of the bracket is Lafayette, and of course Kettle Run was the Conference 27 champion, and Lafayette was a conference champion. So you get 2 2s on one side and 2 1s on the other side, and you're going to get a 1 and a 2 that are going to move on to the state tournament. Culpeper, you're talking about Chancellor's defense. Culpeper's allowed 23 goals all season, 13 of those by Kettle Run, so 10 to everybody else.
Wow.
Yeah. They're 13-4. Mac Elliott with the big goal to give them the lead before the half last night. They add another one, and they win 2-0 against Loud Valley in their first round game. And they move on to the region semifinals. Also on Wednesday at King George High School, we'll have the result in Thursday's paper, and then maybe Culpeper's playing for a region title on Friday, maybe against Kettle Run again.
Okay, so the game's going to be at King George. They don't have to travel to York.
Correct. They're going to neutral site that.
Okay.
To come down Route 3 to 95 and then go all the way down to York, and then vice versa for York. That's a haul. And, basically the 2 extreme ends of the 3A East to go from York up to Culpeper. So King George is sort of maybe not quite the middle, but a nice facility, a nice field on turf. The game's going to get in, and, it sort of cuts down on travel time for both squads.
Okay. Awesome. Want to make a prediction?
Ooh, no.
No? Okay. I knew you were going to say no, but I figured I'd ask you.
Anyway. You can ask. What can you tell me about York soccer?
They've got a team.
Want to make a prediction? Okay.
I'll pick Culpeper.
There you go.
Well, you know what? I'll pick anything though. So I'll pick Culpeper. There you go.
Let's not set that precedent, because you pick a home team, they think you jinx them. You pick the other team, you don't respect them. Let's not go down that road.
It was more of just a coin flip.
We can make a chicken bet later, maybe on it.
Okay.
Actually, to illustrate, piggyback on what he said about Culpeper, 23 goals. Chancellor's allowed 8 goals all year.
Wow.
So that tells you how good Chancellor's been all year. I don't want to keep blowing that horn, but that's the point that I made.
Well, so there's some really strong soccer teams and some really close matchups that have been played all season long, but particularly in the playoffs. So why don't we take a look at another recurring theme, I guess, or a strong theme that has come out from this past weekend, Monday night in particular, would be heartbreaking losses. So Mountain View lost 2 really close soccer games on Monday night. The boys and girls both lost, and in heartbreaking fashion. Yeah,
they started with the girls. The boys were the nightcap. The girls, in the 24th minute, they give up a penalty kick goal that is kind of questionable in terms of the call and the goal. The keeper, CeCe Kepler, They said that she had made contact with another player before fielding the ball. It didn't look like that was the case. She said it wasn't the case. Mountain View's coach, Steve Cassidy, said it probably wasn't the case either, but they were awarded the PK. They could convert, and that ends up being the only goal the entire game. Mountain View played great. Their defense was great. Offensively, they were just a tad off here and there. They had a lot of breaks that just didn't go their way. And Stonebridge is a good team. So if you don't play completely together and at this level, like Justin said, every team is great at this level.
Yeah.
It's going to come back to bite you, and that's what happened with the girls. And then on the boys' end, kind of like Chancellor, the Mountain View boys were up 1-0 pretty much the entire game. So they're nursing that 1-goal lead. And afterwards, I talked to one of the players and the coach, and they're like, 1-goal lead for us that's not. All year long, we've played that kind of game where we've been up, and then at the end, the team comes back and gets kind of a fluky goal, or they convert something here or there, and that's what happened in the 79th minute. Thomas Jefferson scores the goal, forces overtime. They play 2 regular overtimes, 2 sudden death overtimes. They go to PKs. Thomas Jefferson, which had won their previous game against Briarwoods on PKs, makes all 5 of their shots. Mountain View misses their first, and they lose.
Yeah.
Just a tough way to go out, and it looked like Mountain View was the better team, and it's just really disappointing for them to not be able to get through at that point.
That's like the Cortland girls. You're speaking of heartbreaking losses. I think for Cortland girls to lose 2-1 to Heritage in overtime, Cortland played with a man advantage for an extended period and couldn't get a winner in. And to me, that's the upset of the day. That's the shocker to me. I really felt like Cortland girls were a team that had a chance to do well in the postseason. I know Dennis Berry, their coach, was pretty high on their chances from the outset this season. Yeah. And to see them go out in the region quarterfinals was a big surprise to me, especially knowing you played that long where you're playing 11 on 10 and you don't get one in. But
huge surprise because they played in the conference championship game, beat Chancellor 4-0. This is after they tied Chancellor a couple weeks before 1-1. Seemed like their offense was getting together. Their problem all year has been dealing with injuries, and they've finally got Amai Canada, Mary McBroom. They both came back, and they both told me after that game against Chancellor that they felt like they were at their best at that point. They'd gotten back to the level they were before the injuries. So it seemed like they were kind of clicking at that time and getting ready to make a run there. Hadn't lost a game all year. Play with an advantage for 45 minutes, and that's playoff hockey or playoff soccer. I'm sorry, but
it's also playoff hockey,
NHL hockey. I got that on my mind too. But it's a tough thing to. I was telling you guys before we started taping. It's just such a unforgiving game. Soccer is. You get one break here, one break there, and that's the ball game.
You absolutely agree, but it's not just soccer, and that's the weird thing about this past weekend. So Eastern View Baseball, how is this for a storyline? Eastern View Baseball is playing in the 4A North quarterfinals against Sharando, the defending AA state champion. David Laird, their pitcher for Eastern View, hits Sharando, and they still lose 1-0.
And I'll bet if before that game you go to Eastern View coach Danny Nobbs and said, look, if you give me $1,000, you can throw a one-hitter here this game. He would have signed over his life, probably, maybe a bucket of chicken even. Yeah. And for
throw
them to come out,
in and you got a
deal. A one-hitter. We're going to throw a one-hitter and we're going to lose 1-0. That's a crusher. That is a crusher.
So it's that's been the story. There are a number of these heartbreaking losses, magnified by the fact that it's lose and go home, right? Win and go on, lose and go home. It's the nature of playoff sports. I almost said hockey as well. Yeah. Playoff sports, but it's part of what gets the adrenaline pumping and gets the attendance there, and it's part of the excitement of sport.
Well, Chancellor baseball with a 4-2 lead after 4 innings, they give up a run to tie the game in the bottom of the 6th to Millbrook, and they end up losing in 10 innings. Again, another team that was there, and it couldn't close the deal, and it's going to be close. That's how it is. That's what I saw Monday. I saw North Stafford softball out-hit Stonebridge 8-3 and lose 5-3. In a game maybe where North didn't have their best, but certainly towards the end of the game, they're swinging the bats well enough to win it. And if you're going to tell their coach, look, you're going to out-hit that team 8-3, I think you're in pretty good shape. Not always the case.
Right. King George with not quite as close, but the King George softball team with a pretty crushing defeat, and that was certainly an upset there.
Yeah, King George girls lost to Liberty last week in the Conference 22 semifinals, 8-0. And if you look at the game and you just look at snippets, you see King George girls coming up and they're hitting the ball hard. You know, the Liberty shortstop was outstanding. She was a vacuum cleaner. They hit a bunch of hard balls right at her. Their outfield caught every hard ball King George hit to the outfield. They run them down, and then the Foxes put a bunch of base runners on and couldn't ever get that next hit. Liberty has one big inning, sort of takes advantage of some maybe rough, less than good King George defense, puts up a big number, and that's the ball game. And King George gets upset at the Conference 22. Again, if I was betting on you this spring, you were in a bad spot, because I certainly like King George to get out of the conference and certainly get onto the region, and they get upset last week on Friday.
Yeah. Well. Again, though, that's the nature of sport. It builds character. I'm sure that there are coaches across the region that are talking to their players and trying to pump them up and congratulate them on the seasons that they've had, and let them know that they don't want to have that feeling again next year, right? So I mean, that's the cyclical nature of sport.
Well, a lot of these teams, especially with North Stafford softball, King George softball, those are very young teams. North Stafford has 6 freshmen on the field for their softball team, and they're the Conference 15 champion. Going to have a whole host of those girls back. King George is the same way. They're stellar pitchers, a freshman. She's going to be back. They're going to be strong again next year. So, you're going to have a chance to learn from maybe the season not ending like you'd like it to.
That Chancellor Jefferson Forest boys soccer team game, you want to make a...
I will also not make a prediction on that game.
Pass on that one.
No, sir.
Nathan?
No.
Not even for a bucket of chicken.
Nathan's covering the game. He won't be participating in the pick'em this week.
Okay.
We'll take
the Chris Collinsworth treatment.
That's a look at regional action around the area, regional tournament action around the area. Well, we've also got some track information to report. Justin, what's going on the track and field scene?
Yeah, state track meet this weekend, 5A and 6A down in Newport News, and the 3A and 4A up at Harrisonburg. And, I think there's definitely going to see some individuals, put up some good numbers. Michelle Morton from Mountain View, in the 100's got the best time in the state. And Nakim Morton from North Stafford in the 200 is another guy. No relation, I don't think. Another guy to look for. He's really emerged this year and put up some nice times. Got the number 1 time in the state in the 200 in the 5A. Got a good chance to be a contender there. And then in the girls' high jump, it's the 2 local girls,
right.
Amaya Carey and Crystal Jones. They've been neck and neck. They were neck and neck in the winter, and they're going to be neck and neck here this spring. I think that'll be real fun to watch them high jump against each other, and hopefully one of the 2 come out with the state title.
Crystal Jones won the 6A South meet, but they both cleared 5-6. I guess Crystal had fewer misses.
Yep, on jumps,
So that's how close they are.
And it was that close in the winter as well. I think
right.
Crystal's best of the winter, or of the spring, is a little better than Amaya's, but like soccer and softball and baseball, like we were talking about, you're going to come out and hit the high jump. You can hit a big jump, or you can not hit your big jump, and we'll see how it comes out.
Sabrina Johnson from Stafford also had a big discus throw. She won the
she had
place.
She had a great throw at in the region meet, and I think she could be a real contender as well this weekend. She's had a nice season throwing both the shot and the discus, and I believe she got a 135. I think was the answer on the
135.8 is what my stats here.
That's a pretty good pull by me, I think, pulling 135 out.
When it comes to numbers, I rarely question you.
Yeah, Sabrina she had a good. She was an all-area pick in the winter, and I have a feeling, I don't want to give it away, probably in contention to be an all-area pick here in the spring as well. With a region title on her.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. There you go.
All right. Anything you're looking for on the 4A, 3A?
Well, King George will be interesting. I'm told that King George's graduation is going to conflict with the state meet, and they're going to have some of their bigger names maybe not be there. And frankly, that happens every single year with the state tournaments. I've seen it at soccer tournaments. I've seen them move soccer games and state tournaments to make graduations work. You've seen kids leave, not play. Seen it in all the sports. And frankly, if you have seniors that have come down and have already accomplished a lot, especially a lot of these King George kids that have had chances to win state titles and things like that,
right.
And your graduation is going to happen once. So I can't really blame anybody, but we'll see how that pans out. I know for Caroline, Assam Pankey dinged up his hamstring last week in the region meet. Probably going to limit him a little more this week for the state meet. But that's another kid who's an athlete and can put up some big numbers, and we'll see how he does.
Yeah. So Rayshawn Bishop from Louisa had a victory in the long jump and the triple jump, 21-1 and 46-3 respectively.
And Rayshawn's been one of our best jumpers for his entire career, and has hit the state meet and been derailed time and time again. Injuries, hamstrings, muscle pulls, things like that, strains. And so hopefully he's going to be healthy and have a good chance to put up some good jumps.
Yeah, you always hope that you can see, personal bests in that kind of environment.
Exactly,
so. Yeah. We've also got Stephanie Cheeks from Chancellor, who had a 5'2" high jump. That was good for first place in the 4A North. And then Freddie Romero Baker from Caroline with a 13-foot pole vault there in the 3A. So, exciting times. But I honestly hadn't thought about that, but it is coming up on graduation time, and you're right. I only had one high school graduation. Most people probably did. So it's certainly it's tough when you have to make those kind of decisions.
Yeah, that's a tough decision to make, and I don't blame anybody who chooses. I don't know. Maybe if I've in track, it's a little different. A lot of people every year get a chance to go compete at that level. In soccer, softball, baseball, you might only make the state tournament one time in your 4 years, and I can see that being a little more consideration. I think in track, though, where a lot of these guys, Miranda Green, Davian Hutt, these guys have had chances and so on.
Yeah, and know where they're going to go to college.
Exactly.
But as opposed to the team sports where you've got other players who teammates that are counting on you to be there. So those are some tough decisions.
I've seen a couple times. You go up to Radford for the Jubilee, and they have a graduation ceremony before the game for the seniors. Where
I've heard of those. Yeah,
they'll actually give them their diploma. And
I think I saw some Cortland girls, soccer players, graduate on the field. I believe a couple of years ago.
Do something for them. Let them play the game, and you can make it a decision if the kid wants to go to graduation, they can go. But I think most of them would choose to play in the game and try to win a state championship.
Yeah. At the team level, particularly. Yeah. Well, speaking of the next level, we've got some news and notes, some additional offers, I guess, going out to some kids from the area. Nathan, what do you got there?
Yeah, a couple of weeks after we started comparing them to Roger Clemens and other Hall of Fame pitchers, Dylan Hall committed to Virginia Tech this week. He's only a sophomore, so really big news for him, and I imagine he could be a name that we maybe see on the draft boards in a couple years as well. So big accomplishment for him, big right-handed pitcher. As you stated, his mechanics are really, really good, and just a really good, a good situation for him, especially this early in his high school career to commit that early. We also had a couple of football offers from Maryland. Maryland's in this area. They're in this area big time. After Daniel Izagu got that late offer from Maryland and ends up committing there. Now Maryland is in on Gus Little, the linebacker from Massaponax. They also offered Josh Ball, the offensive lineman for Stafford. Ball's a sophomore as well, so he's going to be a name to look out for in a few years as well. So
Josh Ball is you can't miss him. In the Stafford locker room, he is a big man, and that doesn't surprise at all that coaches are going to look at him size-wise and think, hey, we could probably teach that to block.
I'm kind of curious, Antoine, the Wynn Coleman kid from JM, and then Josh Ball, they're both sophomores. Have we had kids that early, getting these offers? I mean, these guys are getting multiple offers, early in their careers. So, really cool thing for these kids to be getting these looks.
And Maryland loves this area. Dexter McDougal, Torrey Smith. Maryland certainly loves this area. Maryland certainly loves Stafford High School.
Obviously, Maryland's
Josh Ball.
So it's not just a matter of getting offers, which is really impressive as sophomore, but we're talking about D1 significant, organizations, institutions that they're getting offers from. So that's
absolutely.
Yeah, I think Ball's up to 3 offers, and Little's in the 5 to 6 range. So we've got some guys next year that we'll be on the lookout for. Some of these guys might be making decisions, come summer. Gary Jennings from Colonial Forge might be one of those guys that we see commit in the next couple months. So it'll be an interesting time for football recruiting.
Well, it's an interesting time as well for soccer, particularly. We've got the state tournaments coming up very soon, and we'll be back next week to chat about the results of this past week and preview what we've got coming up.
Hopefully we'll have some local teams.
Hopefully we'll have some local teams still alive and things to chat about. There's always football looming just around the bend, though, right? So.
And chicken.
and chicken if we're lucky. If we're lucky. Well, we're hungry, folks, so that's going to do it for this week's installment of Varsity 360. Certainly appreciate the time and information and energy from my good friends Justin Rice and T. Nathan Warters. Always a pleasure, fellas. Thanks for the time. And thank you for watching. For the Virginia Varsity Sports Network, I'm Mark Coleman. Thanks for watching, everyone.